The top 1% use words to command attention, build trust, and get people to say yes. And over the last 20 years, I have completely changed the way I speak, write, and operate. These are the 7 techniques that'll help you articulate your words like the top 1%. The first technique is so powerful, yet so simple, you can test it right away. It is called resting rich face. You're not being ignored because you're boring. You're being ignored because your face looks the wrong way. Here is what resting rich face means. When you're on camera, whether it's a Zoom sales call or a client meeting, how do you show up? Do you look like you need this work? Like you're kind of desperate for it? Like, oh my gosh, I hope this works out. You're leaning in. Or do you look like maybe you have somewhere slightly different to be? Now, having a resting rich face is about giving off a sense of just not needing this. It gives off this energy of, I don't need this, I'm not sweating for it to work out. And this is one of the most powerful ways to actually get what you want. So here's how to put that into practice. Lean back when they think you should be leaning in and madly taking notes. Sometimes you temple your hands under your chin intentionally. You look into the camera and not at your picture on Zoom. Like really try not to look at your picture on Zoom. Go into hide self-view. It really helps. And even if your mic doesn't work, you put it in front of you so it looks like you do this for a living. Relax your face. Keep your eyebrows low, make eye contact, have warm water in your glass so your voice is clear when you're speaking. Next up is another super powerful technique, and it's also super easy to use. It's mirroring. This is how to get people to say yes to you almost every single time. So imagine you're trying to convince someone to go all in on your idea. You ask them, what's your biggest concern about moving forward with this? And they say, well, I'm worried the timeline is too tight and, we'll end up rushing through the important parts. Now, here's where a lot of people mess up. They respond with their own interpretation. So they'll listen to that, they'll hear that, and then they'll say something like, oh, so you want more time? That's not what they said. Here's what you should do instead. Mirror back their exact words. You say, so you're worried the timeline is too tight and we'll end up rushing through the important parts. Is that right? Notice the difference? Those were their exact words, not your interpretation. And when you repeat their language back to them, something shifts. They feel heard, they nod, they lean in, because when you mirror someone's language right back to them, you're doing 2 things. First, you're proving that you actually listened. Most people do not listen. They just wait for their turn to talk. And second, you are speaking in their language, not yours. And this makes your solution, your brand, feel custom built for their specific problem, even if it's something you offer to everyone. Number 3, most people don't realize that they are sabotaging themselves with every sentence. That's why you have got to be precise. Picture this. Someone asks you for a restaurant recommendation. You say, oh, I think you might like that new Italian place. Maybe you could try it. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Now, imagine someone else says, you have to try Bella Notte. The pasta is incredible and they have the best tiramisu I've ever had. Now, which recommendation are you more likely to follow? When you say things like, I think, it might be, perhaps, maybe, you are telling your audience that you don't believe what you are saying. Whether you're pitching an idea at work, giving advice to a friend, or expressing your opinion in a conversation, these words kill your credibility. If you are writing a sales page, trying to convince somebody to buy something, you would never write, it might work, or perhaps give this a shot, or trust me, this'll work. Those phrases add nothing. They just fill the silence. But this is not just about cutting out filler words. Being precise means being intentional about every single thing you choose to say. So before you say something, before you share something, ask yourself, does this belong on the page? If it doesn't help the argument, if it doesn't help get people nodding along with you, it doesn't belong on the page. That means defaulting to not sharing something that doesn't actively support the argument you are trying to make. So here's the technique I use to eliminate filler words and be more precise. Keep your mouth closed and your tongue pressed to the roof of your mouth. Then, when you're ready to speak, you don't do so until you're actually ready. You have to lower your tongue from the roof of your mouth, open your lips, and now you're ready to speak. And that pause honestly gives you enough time to prepare what you're going to say and choose that first word, which will not be or or I think. And it also helps ensure you are only saying what matters. Number 4 is to always sell. Speaking like the top 1% isn't about sounding smart. It's about selling without anyone realizing you are. Now, here's something most people don't realize. You are always trying to get someone to say yes to you. Whether you're convincing your partner where to go for dinner, pitching an idea at work, or persuading a friend to join you for an event, you're selling. Now imagine this. Your colleague just shared a concern about something. Now here's what most people do. They immediately jump to their solution. But watch what happens when you do this instead. You say, it's a really smart observation. You are good at spotting things other people miss. Now immediately something shifts. They like you more. They're more likely to hear you out because you've made them feel good first. Now here's what you don't do. You don't criticize them to get them to say yes. You don't tear down their idea to make yours look better. Others might do that, and it might even work sometimes, but I have seen repeatedly that building people up works 100 times better than beating them down, especially when you are going to want them on your side. Being in sales means understanding that people make decisions based on how they feel about you, not just the logic of your argument. When you make someone feel valued before you ask for what you want, they're already leaning toward the yes. Next up is number 5. You have to over-prepare. I was so shy as a kid, but today I'm a top-rated speaker, and here's how I did it. Now, I used to be a pleaser. I was a good Canadian. Friendly, polite, apologetic, and I've had to work against all of that to find my voice, share it clearly with confidence in noisy, ego-filled, and fast-paced boardrooms. And the secret was to prepare and practice everything I had to say before actually saying it. Most people who are good at this stuff are not natural-born gifted speakers. They over-prepare until they get really good at it. And this can mean preparing what you'll say the way a copywriter might do. Start with the problem you want to hook your listener with. Agitate that. Bring it to life quickly, then propose the solution. It's absolutely okay to practice talking to yourself in the mirror. It's okay to memorize notes and practice those notes before you go into a meeting. Now, here's what that preparation actually does for you. When you're in a room with leaders, prepare to be just bowled over by how they talk without thinking about whether anybody else should be talking now. They just speak. And that's what your preparation allows you to do too. Now, this can be really quite difficult for women in particular who are used to observing the room to see if it's okay that they're talking or if anybody else wants to chime in. You do not want to do this. To fit in this sort of room, you need to speak confidently and actually keep talking even when someone is trying to interrupt you. Get your full thought out, finish with a strong period, and you can only do that when you've practiced enough that you know exactly what you're going to say. The next technique is the one most people refuse to do. It is this: stand out. People don't start listening when you speak louder. They listen when you take up space. Here's what I see happen all the time. Someone tells me, I just want nobody to really notice me, but I want things to go splendidly. I want the best job. I want a promotion. I want $10 million in sales for this launch, but I don't want to say anything that sounds too different. I don't want to really offer anything that different. And I'd really just kind of like to flow into the background. That never ever works. You want to be like Liquid Death. They took water, they put it in a can, and they made it stand out so much that people couldn't ignore it. You're going to take what you are, what you're trying to communicate, and you're going to make sure that you do it differently. So differently that it absolutely stands out. Now, I know it's scary to stand out because I had done the opposite. I've hidden. I've gotten on stage and, tried not to be that noticeable. I'm tall, so I didn't wear heels on stage, and that's silly. I wore casual clothing, so I feel more like, a member of the crowd. Also silly. This is a thing I had to train myself out of. I'm tall. I need to take up space, any space, not shy away, and I need to own it. Very few people will do this, and that is your advantage if you're willing to do it. Here's what I do to help me when I speak to crowds or in big meetings. I pick one person in my imagined audience and I talk to that person, and I see that she is nodding with me, she's smiling at me, she's open to what I'm saying. That immediately makes you feel more confident, and it keeps you from getting distracted by, the one person who you worry will be looking at their phone. Pick one person in your next meeting or presentation and speak to them. Let them be your anchor, and don't be afraid to sound different from everyone else in this very boring boardroom. The last technique is to become an expert. I made $20,000 in 3 days because I was an expert at just one thing. When I started my business, Copy Hackers, in its very first year, I started it by writing a book about copywriting. I then turned that into 4 ebooks, which I sold on Hacker News, and I made about $20,000 in 3 days. But what was most important was that I was getting leads like just bananas out of that. Now, this was just a self-published series of micro ebooks. But the moment I put my name on those books, something shifted in how I carried myself. I wasn't pretending to be an expert. I wasn't second-guessing myself before I spoke. I had codified my knowledge. I had put it out into the world. And that changed everything about how I walked into rooms, how I spoke in meetings, and even how I pitched clients. Creative types who find themselves in leadership positions or standing in front of a room often struggle with the idea of being confident. When people see your name on something you created as an expert, you're the expert. But more importantly, you feel like an expert. And when you feel like an expert, you stop hedging, you stop apologizing for your ideas, you speak with conviction because you've done the work to earn it. Now I know, writing a book sounds complicated, and maybe it's not for you right this second, but here's the thing. You don't need a 300-page traditionally published book. You could write a 20-page guide on one specific thing you are good at. You could create a series of 3 short ebooks instead of 1 long one. You could record a workshop. You could build a course. You could publish a framework. The point is this: create something that forces you to organize and articulate your expertise. Put your name on it. Share it. Because the act of doing that doesn't just position you as an expert to others, it makes you internalize that expertise. These 7 techniques will change the way people listen to you and respond to you. Start with just one, master it, then add the next. And if you like this video, watch this next one here, and I'll see you there.